DKDB Nashville.
Hello, friends. It's your buddy Lou Pickney with you here with a DKDB update. March 1st, 2026. NFL Scouting Combine up in Indianapolis, starting to wrap up. And I anticipate we're going to have a lot of updates to the mock drafts in the DKDB, which is my personally curated, expert-curated 2026 NFL mock draft database. I put the best of the best in here. Over the past 5 years, I'm tied for third place in the Huddle Report scoring for mock drafts. Been in this business for 23 years. Only two people out there have a higher 5-year average from 2021 to 2025. One of them is Jason Boris. He puts out one mock draft per year the morning of the first day of the draft. His is not out yet, nor is Brendan Donahue's, the number 2 placeholder at the moment. Second best over the past 5 years. I imagine Brendan's mock draft will be out within the next couple of weeks at the latest. Keep a close eye on that. And as you would imagine, there's not a lot of new mock drafts that have come out in the last few days because all eyes have been on the combine. Workouts are changing perceptions about certain players, interview process going on, etc. Plenty of people like me that got theirs in not too long before the combine, and I anticipate on Monday there'll be a whole bunch out we can delve into. But I do have one update from earlier today. Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News. Let's see what Vinnie has to say, and I'll go through and mention some of the players involved and some of the rationale here. My reaction to Vinnie Iyer's new mock draft. Part of the DKDB. No AI, no committees, no tandem efforts. Just the best of the best. Top NFL draft analysts, major publications, and independents alike. If you've got the goods, you can make it into the DKDB. So let's take a look at what Vinnie Iyer has here. His latest 2026 NFL mock draft. As you would expect, Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza at number 1. Vinnie notes Mendoza didn't work out, but he measured in as bigger and stronger than expected. At 2, Arvell Reese, as anticipated. I mean, he didn't have to go through the workouts at the combine. He could have coasted. But he chose to, and he performed well. And that would seem to boost his case for going to the New York Jets at 2. At number 3, Jeremiah Love. Running back from Notre Dame. That's what Vinnie Iyer says at 3. Jeremiah Love had a fantastic showing at the combine. Running a 4.36 40. I think that's going to be a viable consideration for the Cards at 3. Of course, there's also the word that the Cards are high on Utah offensive tackle Spencer Fano. We'll see what happens with the Cards at 3. At 4, Tennessee Titans, Ruben Bain Jr. It was not like it was some sort of major revelation that Bain had below prototype length from his arm size on those measurements. But he has a tremendous intensity, a tenacity. He's the kind of player that can be on the field for likely running plays, and he's not a liability against the run. Great effort player. I think he'd be a good fit with the Titans at 4. Vinnie Iyer notes Bain had a great interview with the team, with the Titans at the Combine. Be sure to go and read this for yourself. I'll go over some of the high spots here, but I'll have the link to Vinnie's mock draft, both in the description of this YouTube video and pinned in the I have a link to the DKDB pinned. But I'll make sure it's there where you can get to it. In the YouTube video area. At 5, Caleb Downs, New York Giants. I think there's a strong possibility of that happening, particularly if Love's already gone by this point. If not, I think that's a consideration for the Giants. I meant to spotlight Ruben Bain Jr., skip past him by accident. Anyway, his arms 30 and 7/8 inches. 6'2", 263, it's a little bit lighter than his listed weight, but still enough bulk to be able to handle the rigors of the NFL. Number 6, Cleveland Browns. Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News says Francis Mauigoa. Offensive tackle, Miami. The Browns will need help on their offensive line. They're expected to lose several offensive linemen to free agency. There's Francis Mauigoa, native of American Samoa. 6'5.5", 329 pounds. Number 7, Washington Commanders. Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News says the Commanders will go with David Bailey, edge rusher, Texas Tech. A tremendous athlete, had a very good showing at the NFL Combine. If he's still on the board here at number 7, I could see him being a strong possibility for the Commanders. At 8, New Orleans Saints. Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. Styles had a tremendous showing at the Combine. One of the top performers there. Started his career in Columbus, Ohio as a safety, converted to linebacker. A unique player. He'd be a major boost for that Saints defense if the Saints can get him at number 8. Number 9, Kansas City Chiefs. Now you'll notice with these receivers, there's not like these receivers going top 5 here. We got Carnell Tate finally off the board at number 9 to Kansas City. Tate with that remarkable ability to get open in 3 seconds or less. Very sure-handed. Be interesting. Tate with the Chiefs once Patrick Mahomes is healthy. Something to keep in mind. And 10, Cincinnati Bengals. Jermon McCoy, corner from Tennessee. There seem to be 2 lines of thought with the Bengals. Going with an edge rusher, or going with a corner. There are certainly mixed opinions among Bengals fans about whether a corner is the right play to make a 10. But that's what Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News has here. Number 11, Vinny. Now this interests me. Akeem Mesidor, edge rusher. Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins. But keep in mind, Akeem Mesidor will turn 25 years old early next month, early April. And the Dolphins do not look like a team that are likely to contend for a Super Bowl this upcoming season. So that kind of surprises me. But then you look about the information on Mesidor. Native of Ontario, Canada, 6'3", 259. Got the arm length more like what you would look for from an edge rusher. Not any drill information there for Mesidor, so he'll have his private workout or his pro day with Miami. Anyway, so it's interesting to see Mesidor up there at number 11. I'm not quite so sure I see it that way, but it's something to keep in mind. Number 12, Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News says Mansour Delane, corner from LSU to the Cowboys. That would fill a major need for Dallas. If Sonny Styles has already gone by this point, it makes sense. Delane, one of the top corners in the draft. At number 13, the LA Rams, first of 2 picks. Avion Terrell, corner, Clemson. Interested in seeing what the official listings for Terrell would be. And as advertised, 5'11". He was listed about 180, weighed at 186 pounds, so he's got a little more size there. Didn't run a 40. You can see vertical jump, broad jump, and bench press. So it's Terrell to the Rams at 13. At 14, Caleb Banks, defensive tackle, Florida. Some people think Banks will go mid-first. Some say, nah, it's really more early day 2. And Banks only played in 2 games last season with the Florida Gators due to injury issues. But when he's healthy, he's a special talent. Great showing at the Combine as well, so maybe some of the naysayers will be quieted. But Banks also performed well down in Mobile. At 15, Keldrick Falk, edge rusher, Auburn. It would surprise me for Mesidor to go before Falk. But Keldrick Falk, 6'6", 276. So he's got size. Strong against the run. Excellent pass rusher as well. The arm length. Didn't run a 40. Get that vertical jump, broad jump information there. And look, he's one of the best as far as the edge rusher prospects go. And so it makes sense for Tampa Bay at 15 if they're not going to go linebacker there. Edge rusher makes a lot of sense. And Keldrick Falk, as much as he's been rumored recently to potentially be of interest for Detroit at 17, that obviously can't happen if he's gone at 15. For 16, New York Jets, Mekhi Lemon. So again, I'm sensing it's not just from Vinnie Iyer's mock draft here, but others as well. Like, well, maybe fade a little bit on these wide receivers as far as being up there top 5 or even top 10 necessarily. But Mekhi Lemon, sure-handed receiver. Not great size per se, but reliable, great hands. At 17, Cassius Howell, edge rusher, Texas A&M. I mean, people already knew Howell had shorter arms than the prototype. I don't think that's any surprise. Anybody who's docking either Reuben Bain Jr. or Cassius Howell just hadn't been paying attention. Now, the surprise would be if they actually had longer arms than expected, then maybe you'd adjust them upward as far as projections go. But anyway, Howell had 11.5 sacks last season against top-notch competition down there in College Station, Texas. Here it's Detroit getting Howell at 17. At 18, Vinnie Iyer has Dylan Thiedemann, safety from Oregon, going to the Vikings. I think a lot of people will have this. Harrison Smith, his retirement plans. Now, I knew Dylan Thiedemann was fast. I've known about him since he was at Purdue. He had a great season last year with the Oregon Ducks. Look at that 40 time. He ran a 4.35 40. Now, that doesn't guarantee you a first-round spot as a safety. Remember last year, Nick Imedwari from South Carolina ran a 4.39 40. I thought, he's got to be in. And it didn't play out that way. He went early on day 2. Great player. Seattle traded with the Titans to get him. Won a Super Bowl, so it worked out. Anyway, Thiedemann, it makes a lot of sense for him to go at 18 to the Minnesota Vikings. I strongly agree with Vinny on this one. And 19, this is interesting. Carolina Panthers. C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia. I wonder if Dallas would be considering Allen at number 20 if they're looking for an off-ball linebacker. They may be. Of course, free agency coming up is going to impact a lot of things as far as team needs go. But just the lay of the land right now. You see a lot of different projections from different top analysts about the Panthers at 19. And here, Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News has C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia. Number 20, Dallas Cowboys, T.J. Parker, edge rusher from Clemson. So if the Cowboys go with a corner at 12, you come back at 20, and they should be able to get a good edge rusher in this range, as they do here with T.J. Parker. At 21, Kenyon Sadiq. Talked about this on yesterday's show. Sadiq had an incredible showing at the NFL Scouting Combine, running a 4.39 40, breaking the record. Was it Vernon Davis with a record from 20 years ago? I mean, people knew Sadiq was athletic. They knew he was fast, but I did not expect that. So any questions about Sadiq? I think of the Broncos at 30, okay, you're probably not going to get him. Because there are some mocks that think, okay, worst case for Sadiq, he's still in the first round, but maybe at 30 to Denver. But you don't run that fast with that much hype and slide that far, absent a real surprise. At 22, one of my favorite matchups between player and team, Los Angeles Chargers, Venga Ioane, offensive guard, Penn State. In the opinion of many evaluators You want the top interior offensive lineman in this year's draft class. It would fill a huge need for the Chargers, who might look defensive line as well, but I still think offensive line, particularly interior, and the Vanguard, I think that's a great matchup. 23, Philadelphia Eagles. Vinnie Iyer says Spencer Fano, offensive tackle, Utah. Now, you might recall that I had it recently what Charlie Campbell noted on WalterFootball.com, that Fano is a player that the Arizona Cardinals really like. And you have that range. Some people think Fano top 3. He may go to Arizona at 3. Or maybe more in this range, still on the board possibly for Philadelphia at 23. Fano, the mean mug right there. What a photo. 6'5.5", 311 pounds. I mean, look, he ran a 4.9140. That is remarkable for a man of that size. He weighs 311 pounds and ran a 4.9140. He didn't do the bench press, which is interesting. I was really interested to see what that was going to be, but perhaps, maybe it's just not in yet. Some of these workouts are still going on as I record this. Or maybe they're wrapping up by now, but anyway, it's not on the list yet. You can see the rest. He wasn't afraid. He's a top prospect, but he wasn't afraid to show what he could do there at the NFL Combine. The point being that there's some that see him up higher, and then some like what Vinnie Iyer has here from the Sporting News have him a little bit lower. 24, let's talk about Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State. This could prove to be a bit lower. This would be a nice pickup for the Browns if you can get Tyson here, just because he's such an electric playmaker. Now, Tyson didn't go through the whole workouts process because he's still recovering from the injury that ended his season, unfortunately, for Arizona State. But when he's healthy, and that is the question with Tyson, can he stay healthy? The measurements, a legit 6'2", 203. If you look at what they have here on NFL.com, total score 86. 2026 Combine wide receiver ranked first. Jordan Tyson, a lot of talk he's going to go. I've heard the Jets at 16 is a stopper, but they could be a stopper for somebody else too, and then something has to give. I don't know if Tyson will be there at 16, but maybe he will, and maybe he'll be on the board at 24, as Vinnie Iyer has here. 25, Monroe Freeling, offensive tackle, Georgia. One of the Bears, who have about as many different possibilities projected to them as there are top analysts. A lot of different thoughts on what the Bears could go, whether it's defensive line or offensive line, being the most likely there. At 26, Buffalo Bills, Casey Concepcion. Showed better hands at the Combine than he has in some of his tape. He's explosive, an electric playmaker. The question is, can you trust him to catch the ball? When it's 3rd and 5, it's one thing to get open, but you got to be able to make that catch. But he also has a tremendous highlight reel. Look at what he can do. And so he performed well at the Combine. And as much as I've heard Concepcion linked to the Niners, here instead he goes to the Bills at 26. On the flip side, let's talk about Denzel Boston. Boston did not run a 40-yard dash at the Combine. He's 6'4", so he's got tremendous size. But there's some that are like a little bit more down on Boston. We'll see. And there's some that will inevitably, if somebody, like especially a corner or receiver that's not a top guy, if they decline to run, sometimes they'll get dinged just for doing that. Every player's got their own reasons for doing things. Anyway, so Boston, though, again, so while that is the case for some, others still say Boston first-round prospect. Number 28, Houston Texans. Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News says Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson, who ended up weighing in under 300 pounds at the Combines. Even leaner, which is interesting. They tried to turn him into an edge rusher at one point at Clemson. That didn't really work out. But he's an incredible pass rusher as an interior defensive lineman. But is he strong enough against the run that any cons are outweighed by the pros of him being a great pass rusher? It's all about the pass rush in the modern NFL. And the man weighs almost 300 pounds, but something to keep in mind. Number 29, LA Rams, Ty Simpson. I think this is the most likely scenario for Simpson at this point. A lot of whispers the Rams could go for a developmental quarterback in round one. And if it's not Simpson, then maybe there'll be somebody that'll surprise the evaluators. I don't know. The Rams still have Matthew Stafford. It's going to be a quarterback-heavy draft next year. But if they like Simpson, and he's on the board at 29, perhaps. Not everyone thinks Simpson to the Rams is a lock, though. I should note that. But it's hard to know what to trust this time of year. If the Rams really want him, it's in their best favor to make other people think they don't want him. And that's where I want to see how AI figures that out. I've been doing this for 23 years. I know who to trust. At 30, Denver Broncos, Lee Hunter, defensive tackle, Texas Tech. I thought he did kind of poorly in some of those workouts at the combine, but that might have been him just being willing to do the workouts a lot of others weren't. Sometimes they only had like a few defensive tackles that ran through all the different drills. So we'll see what the thoughts are on Hunter as more opinions and whispers come out post 2026 NFL Scouting Combine. 31, Caden Proctor still on the board, going to the New England Patriots. 6'7", 366. And finally at 32, Colton Hood, corner from Tennessee, Seattle Seahawks. There's Colton Hood. Official measurements 6'0", and even 6 feet tall, 193 pounds. Ran a 4.4440. So sub 4.45, which is good. Now the truly elites run sub 4.4, but look at that vertical jump above 40. Look at the tape from last season. I mean, the Tennessee Vols really needed him last year, and he performed well for them in that top corner spot with Jermod McCoy out with that unfortunate torn ACL that he suffered in January of last year. I'll be very interested in seeing what McCoy, when he finally does run a 40-yard dash, how that ends up playing out for him. All right, so that's it for this DKDB update. I'll be back tomorrow with a Monday update. I expect a lot of information to drop between late night tonight and Monday by about noon Eastern. I think there'll be a lot of mock drafts coming out, a lot to parse through, a lot to consider, as you'll have this time of the year. So that's it for this DKDB update. I'm your host, Lou Pickney. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.